CNN is officially the first casualty of the Trump administration. I mean, John McCain died in a very human way. I mean, we'll all meet our maker at some point in time in our earthly existence when we demise and meet whatever it is on the other side. Every one of us will eventually deal with that. Some will be right, some will be wrong. Some will have a glorious eternity, some will not. That's my personal belief. But there are some earthly existences and entities and apparatuses that don't die the human way. They die in a very materialistic way. And I think CNN died this past week. I think CNN is no longer to be considered serious. They can't be.
Now, whether they know that or not.
Well, I mean, they don't know it because they're true believers. They believe sincerely, Reb, and this goes back to some of the academic influences and some of the natural human inclinations that these people have in their way of seeing the world. But the CNN shows a couple of years ago, probably 3 years ago, as the Washington Post did, that they were going to make a business decision on a calculus that there's a universe of people out there that want to hear everything negative about Donald Trump 24/7. Whether we make it up, it doesn't matter. Well, I think it began as an honest attempt to report on all the negativity of Donald Trump. And in their fairness, he gives them a lot of fodder. That there's a lot of personal misgivings and professional misgivings. Some are accounted. Some kind of flew under the radar. So Donald Trump was an easy target. But CNN failed to understand that as a media outlet, it's your job to report the facts. And they became a propaganda arm for the resistance. They were the epicenter. They believed it. That's why it made it easy. It wasn't hard to lie about Trump because they hate Trump. It isn't hard to lie about conservatives because they hate conservatives. It isn't real hard for those people on CNN to be dishonest about the deplorables because they despise the deplorables. I mean, that's the reality. So CNN made a calculus that they were going to be the epicenter or Grand Central Station of the resistance. We're going to be the place that if you hate Donald Trump, you can always come here and get your perspectives affirmed. That's what CNN became. It is no longer the most trusted name in news and all these, we get it first, we get it right. I mean, all these other, I'm saying they are the epicenter of the resistance. And they're such true believers in being a part of this propaganda arm that they're unwilling, when given the opportunity, to correct a mistake. And the story goes like this. In late July, I think the 26th or 27th, on the Chris Cuomo show, CNN broke a story that Donald Trump Jr. knew, that Michael Cohen, the Trump lawyer, was in a meeting in which Donald Trump Jr. told Donald Trump Sr. about meeting with the Russians. Here we go with the Russians again. That's CNN's reporting. Bernstein, of Watergate fame, said, I can support that accusation. I've got a source, a credible source that says the same thing, an anonymous source. So you got CNN and you got Bernstein, who is he's kind of an operative. He's a CNN spokesperson, or he's a pundit on CNN would be a better way to describe his existence on that network. He does a lot of other things, but that's what he does for CNN. So, and he hates Trump. And that's why he's always welcomed on CNN, because he hates Trump. So on the Chris Cuomo show, Bernstein and Jim Sciutto, who was a former Obama cabinet member, they say, we've got some anonymous source, and it says that, Cohen was in a meeting when Don Jr. told Don Sr. That's inconsistent with what Cohen said before the Senate Intelligence Committee. That's inconsistent with what Don Jr. said when he was interviewed by the Senate Intelligence Committee. And last week, Lanny Davis came clean, somewhat clean, early in the week when he said, we didn't have all our facts straight. I can't confirm that report because we didn't have all our facts straight. Later in the week, Lanny Davis admitted that he was the anonymous source. I mean, Lanny Davis came clean. For whatever reason, I still think it's an interesting question. Why did he do it? Why did Lanny Davis come clean late last week, early this week, and admit that he was the anonymous source that led CNN to report that Donald Trump Sr. knew about the meeting with Donald Trump Jr. and the Russians, and that would contradict what Donald Trump Jr. and Michael Cohen have said with hand on the Bible, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. So there's some problems there. So Lanny Davis admits that he was the anonymous source and he was wrong. Now, he said I was unintentionally misunderstood. He never said I lied. He never said I was dishonest. Never said I was disingenuous. He said I was unintentionally misunderstood. So CNN sticks by the story. Bernstein, he sends out a tweet. Trump just blistered him yesterday. Fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. The fakest of news, the fakest of fake news is CNN. CNN not just doubled down last night, they quadrupled down when they said, we stand by our reporting. You can't stand by the reporting when Lanny Davis admits he was the anonymous source, and in the same article that CNN reported, the anonymous source, they said Lanny Davis declined comment. That is a lie. That is not being unintentionally misunderstood. That is not lacking candor. That is being fundamentally dishonest. That is a lie. As my mom, my father, that was a lie from hell. That's just somebody being a liar at CNN. So instead of CNN saying, hey, in the reporting we did in July 27, when we said we had an anonymous source and Lanny Davis declined comment, Lanny Davis was our source, so we were wrong. We were misleading. We were dishonest. We got it wrong. In the 24-hour news cycle and the competition amongst media empires, we're in a fast-paced world, and we make mistakes occasionally. We made a mistake when we said that an anonymous source reported this, and Lanny Davis declined to comment. Well, now we know two things. We know that Lanny Davis was their anonymous source, and we know Lanny Davis admits now, for some reason, that he lied. And CNN says, we have other sources. Maybe you do. But you still lied by saying Lanny Davis declined comment when Lanny Davis was one of your sources. If you've got multiple anonymous sources, Lanny Davis, we know now, was one of your sources. So instead of saying, we got our facts wrong, in our pursuit of the truth, nobody believes that crap, but that's what they could have said. In our pursuit of the truth, in trying to serve our audience, we get some things wrong occasionally. We got that wrong in late July, and we want to clarify it. No, they hate Trump more than they want to be right. Think of that. They hate and despise Donald Trump and us more than they want to be right. They have no interest in being right. They have no interest in making corrections or redactions or changes. They hate Trump, and they're blinded by that vitriol hate they have for Donald Trump. So they issue a kind of a sentence, a response. I think many media outlets reached out to CNN. Hey, you got a problem here. What's your response to the problem you've got? And they were silent for several days. They finally came out yesterday and said, we stand by our story. You can't stand by your story. It is fundamentally impossible for you to stand by your story. You can stand by your story, and if you stand by your story, you are a liar. Period. The room's not green. The wall's not blue. The Great Wall of China's not in the United States.
Dare we say fake news?
Well, it's just a lie. It's worse than fake news. It's just fundamental dishonesty. You can't say you stand by your story and tell your viewers you're an honest broker, because you're not. You can have multiple sources. You can say that. But in your report, not Rush Limbaugh's report, not Sean Hannity's report, not Fox News, in your report, you said you have an anonymous source and Lanny Davis declined comment. And Lanny Davis has come clean and said, I was the anonymous source, so he didn't decline comment. So whether you had 2 sources, 10 sources, 25 sources, you are a liar. Because in that article, you said Lanny Davis declined comment, and he was your source. So there is a casualty. The first official casualty of the Trump administration is CNN. They are now admitting publicly they have no interest in telling the truth. They have no interest in reporting the facts. They simply want to overthrow an American president. And they will wear that with a badge of honor. Why? Because they hate him more than they want to be honest. Take a break. Back in a minute. Thanks to Schofield's Good Morning PD Live 95.